I have the privilege of introducing you to my best friend, my partner in the gospel, the woman I'm madly in love with. Song of Songs, chapter 2 says this. My dove in the clefts of the rock and the hiding places on the mountainside, show me your face. Let me hear your voice. For your voice is sweet, and your face is lovely. Catch for us the foxes, little foxes, that ruin the vineyards, our vineyards that are in bloom. My wife is a hard worker, and this last week she's worked very hard. She supported me immensely in the ministry this week by making sure that the little foxes, I guess I would call them my children at this point, who are running around are not out of control, and also making sure that for the Bible studies there's things like donuts and apple pie. It's very hospitable, very thoughtful. She even made coffee. I mean, you know.
Sugar.
Yes, I think you're very sweet. And I think it's an honor to hear you share your heart for communion this morning. And I know this is going to help all of us. So I'll give you my amazing wife, Amy Ciaramella.
Well, thanks so much for letting me share this morning. Can you guys hear me okay? Well, I had the privilege of being born and raised in Honolulu, Hawaii. Beautiful, beautiful Hawaii. I had incredible parents. They're still together to this day. I have a brother and sister. I'm the youngest of three. Life was awesome in Hawaii. As it progressed into high school, I found my insecurities mounting. I found myself dependent on attention from boys. The desire to find hope in this love led me to a lot of compromising relationships. I'm compromising my purity, to the point of losing my virginity at 12 years old. And I was in denial of it because I was so young and I didn't understand what happened. My mission in my life at the time was to find the right guy, because my intention was after high school I would marry whoever it was I dated. I just thought that's how it went. You just were loyal and faithful and you marry that person, but obviously that didn't work out. Failure after failure, men just, I don't know, they zoomed off to other women. I didn't understand what that was. I lived simply going after just living with the ebb and flow of life. I was not one with real, big dreams, hopes, aspirations. I did want to become an astronaut when I was younger. I didn't do anything to pursue it, but that was my nice little dream. And I think as my insecurities mounted through my life, I started to stop dreaming for anything big in my life. But I looked up the word mission, and it says the definition is an important goal or purpose that is accompanied by strong conviction, a calling, or vocation. And I didn't have any mission in my life, really. There was no real point in my life. But Luke 20, verse 38 says, "He is not the God of the dead, but of the living." And I realized my life was dead. I'm grateful that God helped me realize something big, a giant gaping hole was in my heart when I was 18 years old, because I felt like the things that I pursued were not fulfilling. At a young age, thankfully. I was dead in my sins of selfishness, pride, insecurity, impurity, idolatry, deceit. I didn't think I was a liar because I didn't tell lies, quote unquote. I would tell half-truths, and I was deceived that I was a deceiver. I tell my parents partial truths. I'm going out with my friends to the club, which I did. But then I didn't tell them I went with my boyfriend after that to his house, things of that nature. My life was just enslaved to selfishness was the biggest thing, but God's desire has always been for me to live life to the full, which I'm super grateful for. So I got to study the Bible. I was met by this wonderful woman, Jovi Baguio, on campus at the University of Hawaii, and I studied the Bible in 3 weeks. And I learned what it was to become a disciple, and I chose to give up my life for God. So April 10th, 1994, 22 years ago, I became a disciple. I got baptized. And in that, I made Jesus Lord. So committing my time, my efforts, my heart, my desires, my goals, my dreams, my future, everything. I just dedicated it to God. I said, okay, this is all yours, whatever that means. I understood it in my head, but obviously life comes and you don't realize how much of a cost that really is. I died to my old life, so I love him with all my heart, mind, soul, strength, right? And I decided to become a fisher of men, because that's what God called me to do, to be a disciple and being a disciple, and to imitate Christ by dying to myself every day. And I was really fortunate to have met a charming young zealot in the campus ministry, my now husband, Ciaramella. The first conversation I recall having with him is he walked right up to my face and he said, "How's your quiet times? How are you doing with God?" I was like, oh my gosh, who is this guy? Little did I know he was going to be my husband down the line. It was so funny. But we ended up dating for 5 years in a pure relationship, which is God's glory, for sure, to God's glory. And then we've been married for over 16 years now, and we have 2 beautiful children, 9 and 4.5, and Paisley and Dimitri. But, we've had the privilege and majority of that time to serve in the full-time ministry, and it's been incredible. We've chosen to live in places because God called us to, places that we've never, ever heard of, never been. Stockton, California. What? Where, huh? We went to Stockton. We were in Portland. We were in Eugene, Oregon. We got to plant Eugene, which is very near and dear to our hearts. We were there for 5 years. Oh, no, 10 years. Excuse me. Big difference. 10 years. And we were able to, in that time, assist in just strengthening and restoring things in Portland with the remnant group that was there. And then Ventura, we got to go there. And then now here in Phoenix, which is, it's been quite a ride. It's been awesome just living these years and being able to serve God. I'm grateful for the call. I'll just read this, Luke 9:23-25. It says, "Then he said to them all, 'If anyone would come after me, he must deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. For whoever wants to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for me will save it. What good is it for a man to gain the whole world and yet lose or forfeit his very self?'" I'm reminded clearly how much I need to look to the cross and keep dying to my old selfish life. As a disciple, I'm grateful. God just always is reminding me how I need to cut off my selfishness, because that's the core of who I am. Living to please myself, living in insecurity, self-centered about my appearance. Even before coming up on stage, I found out kind of in the last minute that I was going to be sharing, and my nature is to be a perfectionist, and I feel like I need hours and hours to prepare if I'm going to speak publicly, because it has to be perfect, and I didn't have hours and hours, and God's like, okay, you need to pray. You need to trust in me, because everything in my flesh wants to make it happen, And in the selfishness, I want to make sure I look good, Who wants to look bad, But anyway, that's my sin, though. But serving others so I could get a pat on my back, doing whatever I want, whenever I want, giving into anger and frustration because I feel like it, giving into depression because it's selfish, and wanting to think about myself, always needing to be right. These are the core of who I am, and I still have to wrestle with these things all the time, especially the needing to be right. I see it very clearly in my daughter. I'm like, oh my gosh. It's scary when you see your sin, in your children, because you're like, ooh, that's ugly. I'm like, wait, that came from me. That's who I am. God he makes me see the need to crucify that every day. And especially as I serve as a women's ministry leader, he makes it that much more obvious, because I'm an example. So I'm grateful. God helps me have, healthy motivation, but I need to do it first and foremost because I fear and revere him. Because those things all, I can put on a good face and tell you all lies, but that doesn't matter, because God sees what's going on in my head and in my heart, whether I'm open or not, But I'm so grateful for the mission God's called me to seek and save the lost. Because that's all that matters, I feel so grateful. I was so grateful for the brothers coming in this Wednesday just to help us to be reminded of what we're here for, that why we give to God for missions, and how generously we're called to give financially, But I think it's just it was a great reminder to hear a lot of the history that Tim shared and Nick had shared, how we were back in Portland and we were just trying to scramble to stay faithful, But I'm so grateful for that time because it really helped me remember what we're about, and where we come from and how much the fight is so worth it. But the very thing that I thought would bring me pleasure in my selfishness was the very thing that was killing me. The insecurities, the depression, living according to those things. Those are the very things that were killing me. But I'm so grateful that God's allowed me to live this life to the full, that I can see wonderful people be added to God's kingdom. We can, I'm so grateful. I think of Colton and Mandy. You guys in Phoenix contributed to Colton becoming a disciple, and now Mandy. And they're now overseeing other disciples, in terms of leadership in LA. They're overseeing ministers. I look at Courtney and Jacob Bias, and they're now overseeing Sacramento. And these were people that were converted in Eugene, or Jacob was pretty much restored in Eugene. And, Ryan Keenan was here not long ago, and he's the administrator overseeing all of our tri-world sector's finances and administration. And anyway, I just feel very grateful. I look at and I see Diana today. It's been a battle. She's finally going to get baptized today, But to me, that's what makes it all worth it, We're not here for ourselves. And if I lived my life for me, then it wouldn't go anywhere. It would just, I would have been out the door a long time ago. But I'm so grateful for the kingdom, so grateful for God allowing us to be a part of something far greater than ourselves, than in this room, but that we can serve God to help Hearts for Eternity. The irony is that before we went in the ministry, I was thinking about going back to school because I majored in fashion design, and I was like, what am I going to do with this? I don't want to do that. And then I was working a full-time job in an office in a design firm, and I thought about going back to school as I graduated from college, here sitting as a disciple, and I thought about becoming a teacher or a nurse because I'd be able to impact people and help people in this life. But God gave me a spiritual nurse, spiritual teacher position. So I would not only help people in this life, but that I'd be able to help people for eternity. So anyway, thank you so much for allowing me to share that now I can live my life for God and the cross, and that through that I have purpose and his mission on my heart.